Hello there, and welcome to episode 227 of the FlameFlash.net podcast. It's been a year already. Um, I have not been fond of my 2-week free trial of 2026 so far. I would like to return it and start again, please. Well, with that being said, the 501st Christmas party was this last weekend. That went well. Some Jackbox games, Liar's Dice, Mario Kart World, and then otherwise in gaming news, we've played some Civ 7 and some World of Warcraft. Next week, the World of Warcraft pre-patch for Midnight comes out. We are 3 months away at this point from Midnight's launch, if we can make it there. The reason I say that is because of things like President Trump this morning threatening to institute the Insurrection Act. So he wants to send U.S. troops to Minnesota soil because his feelings are all bent out of shape from the Minneapolis and other protests around the state. People were already protesting prior to ICE murdering Good, but it seems to have galvanized us in a way you don't see from Minnesotans very often at all. We're a pretty chill bunch, if you didn't know. Calm, collected, curt sometimes, but then it's cold outside. We don't want to be chatting long. It's been a problematic week and a day since we last connected. Somebody else was shot. I believe it was yesterday or Tuesday night. It all blurs together at this point. It's blurring together pretty hard, which is really frustrating. But I'm just shaking my head at the whole thing. So those of you that are Star Trek fans and around my age might remember the episode where Picard was on a clandestine mission. He was on a secret mission. There we go. It's late enough that I can't talk straight, I guess. And he was captured. In being captured, he was mentally tortured first, gaslighting specifically. And his interrogator was constantly pushing and fighting to get Picard to say, even though it was obvious in the background that there were only 4 lights, his captor tried to insist that he say that there were 5 lights. Because those that deny the truth and those that have a cult following to back up that denial of truth have become a lot more dangerous in the last 2 weeks. Something else to keep in mind is that now Ms. Good's murderer, it's making the rounds, could possibly have had some internal bleeding. So, first off, internal bleeding can mean a bruise. From, a medical perspective, a medical definition. So he could have been bruised when he threw himself onto her hood and shot and murdered her. And there it is. So, let's just look at the facts thus far. Good was murdered, and it was done in rage because premeditation of moving the phone camera, which he'd been filming like this, with their right hand. And he very clearly made the swap to his left before walking in front of the vehicle. That's premeditation. Plain and simple. He planned to draw down. And you can see it in the video where he draws down prior to her moving forward at all. He was not in fear of his life. He was angry that two women stood up to him. Now, the supposed impact was not jarring enough for him to then toss his phone, yeet his phone, lose grip on his phone. Enough so that when he's done murdering Ms. Good, he's able to start walking back and swear in her general direction before ending the recording. So, just with those two facts in mind, it's extremely questionable that after a week, this information would come out. If it was true, Trump and everyone there at Washington, D.C. would have been yelling from the rooftops that he was in the hospital and being treated for internal bleeding. It just would have. Because then they'd have a reason to be doing a lot of arrests. Or at least detainments until the investigation, gathered all of the evidence and witness testimony, and oh wait, ICE isn't a well-trained force. ICE is not a traffic enforcement force. ICE has one duty: to hunt down and detain illegal immigrants. That's it. But even with those two facts, the original source of the story came from two unnamed government officials via CBS News. Now, we know that CBS News was recently compromised from the top. So, with a Trump supporter, with a CEO that is problematic in and of itself. So we can't trust the source. Anything coming out of the federal government right now, pretty much, it's false. It just is. It's been proven that way far too many times. Whenever one of these people opens their mouths, and there it goes. So the fourth would be other agents are outright bragging about the murder on camera. That indicates a culture in ICE of thuggery and purposeful disregard for our constitutional rights. A purposeful disregard. Other ICE agents have been caught on camera saying, "Haven't you learned enough?" Just that. Culturally, internal culture within ICE, they have zero regrets. Zero. They would do it again in a heartbeat. Because keep in mind, Ms. Good was murdered in broad daylight. There were people recording the situation all over the place. And it still happened. So, I do not want this man in pain. I want this man to pay for his crime against Good with justice. So, regardless of if he was truly injured or not, I'm doubting he was, or they would have, like I said, been screaming from the rooftops. He purposely put himself in harm's way, which is against policy and constitutional law. And he put himself there to justify murder through self-defense. That's not how self-defense works. And speaking of, Minnesota is a duty to flee state. So so we don't, you know, we want justice for Good. We don't want revenge. But let's look at it a different way. Let's reframe the situation. If the police were chasing a murderer and said murderer trips and falls on a rake, on a lake, thinking about how cold it is outside. If he trips and falls on a rake, he's now bleeding. They're still going to arrest him. They'll take him to the hospital, but they'll arrest him. Being injured is not a get out of jail free card. And that's that. So by falling on the rake, he's hurt. But he still killed somebody. He still needs to go through the due process of being properly accused and ultimately, with the level of evidence and that video evidence, he'd be found guilty. I would hope. He's already lost in the court of public opinion, if you're rational and have seen the footage. And those that are coming out of the woodwork to defend him, I'm wondering if they aren't bots. possibly bots coming over from X. Because they do that. But they're two separate situations. The murder is separate from the injury. And as you can clearly see on his own camera footage, she turns the wheel away from him. So, I mean, he's going to probably have a tough time finding a fair trial. Fair trial. I am definitely tired and need to go to bed. But then they managed to find jurors for, the Luigi insurance case, because there are people out there that aren't watching the news as diligently or as carefully. So either way, let's not let this mess with the narrative. Somebody arguing that she deserved to die or tries to spin the narrative that he was somehow the victim are clearly drinking the MAGA Kool-Aid or are bots. Because foreign actors benefit from the United States being in as much chaos and turmoil as it is right now. But there we are. You know what's funny? So, the president in exile of Venezuela presented Trump the Peace Prize medal today. She's definitely manipulating his weak ego in this situation. Just a petty, small man. I almost pity him. Something's wrong in his life for him to be that angry. Just is. But we'll close with the mildly amusing Ford plant where an employee, now suspended, yelled out, "Pedo protector." So it's sad, but they've seen it's another breaking of the emoluments clause, but the Republicans don't care about the Constitution at this point. I guess there's Greenland to talk about too. If he gets his panties in a twist enough, he might try to invade Greenland. So, I am definitely running out of steam. I'm going to edit this and get to bed. If you liked or want to leave a comment, engage, podcast at flameflash.net. Or once it's exported over on the YouTube page or on the blog itself. Stay safe out there, friends. Even locally, there was an angry ICE agent who, it's wild. The local was at their regular gas station, and a vehicle from out of state was naturally getting gas and trying to leave the parking lot. Except they didn't have their blinkers on, and the exit from the parking lot isn't straight. So she couldn't very well pass them. And instead of finally going out into traffic, two guys disgorged from the vehicle, surrounding it and demanding to insist that she didn't have any rights to be filming them or following them. The First Amendment covers for both, just so you know. But there we are. I'm definitely out of steam. Take care of yourselves, friends, because I have just not been sleeping well ever since this incident. World history and American history have always been important to me. I remember watching the Berlin Wall fall on live television. Still. We'll get there again. I hope. We'll just have to wait and see. But remember, freedom and autonomy are the right of all sentient beings. This has been FlameFlash.net podcast, episode 227, recording it on Thursday night so we can get closer to when we used to regularly record on the weeks. There we have it. So good night, my friends. Stay safe and stay warm out there.